guys, this is Mr. Halp here, and welcome to Lesson 8D. So we're continuing our conversation on how to make the best possible argumentative essays for the AP Lang & Comp test. And we come to this section, which is effective rhetorical choices. And in case you're not getting the impression or you seem to have forgotten or neglected it, this is what we've been preparing for the entire school year, making effective rhetorical choices. Both by looking at other authors' rhetorical choices, but also by experimenting with our own use of effective rhetorical choices and things of that sort. So we've been doing this a whole heck of a lot during the course of the school year. Now it comes time to put it into practice, okay? And making sure that all the stuff we learned in units 1 through 6 we're employing in a manner that helps to benefit our argument, helps to encourage people to believe and agree with everything that we wanted to communicate. So make good choices, guys, specifically rhetorically speaking. So let's talk about this. What exactly do we mean when we're talking about good rhetorical choices in our argumentation essay? So remember that the most effective arguments support a line in reasoning through coherent choices in diction and syntax. So we know that diction means word choice. We know that syntax means word order. And we're just choosing the diction and the syntax that really helps the argument the most, that facilitates that line of reasoning, connecting the dots between all of our different elements without fail. Okay, so really thinking about what words do I want to use that aren't going to alienate my audience and are going to welcome them? What syntax am I going to use that, accomplishes all of the goals that I'm setting for myself? Okay, and on that subject, you need to keep in mind that above all, no matter what your motivations for diction and syntax happen to be, coherence is the most important thing. Merely being coherent. And what do we mean by coherent? Well, we mean the quality of a paragraph where the ideas flow logically, one thought leading to the next, and in essence, everyone understanding what you're saying and how you're saying it, okay? So no matter what kind of innovations you think you might be doing with your word choice and word order, that comes secondary to just making sure everything comes together appropriately. It makes sense. The ideas lead from one to another, and there's this natural flow to that satisfies our logic as an audience, okay? So those are the big things there. Remember that you should be having good transition sentences, and those transition sentences will hopefully solidify that line of reasoning throughout the essay as a whole. Remember that words, phrases, clauses, sentences, or even paragraphs you use to highlight the relationships among ideas are all transitional elements. Everything can be transitional, okay? Every choice you make, every little thing that you do can help to move from one topic to another topic, one claim to another claim, one piece of evidence to another piece of evidence. So don't neglect that and don't forget that, okay? It might just be a matter of changing one word or adding a little preliminary phrase to the beginning of a sentence. But if it helps to make things more transitional, by all means, do it, okay? And just to clarify, remember that when we're talking about transitions, we're talking about those words that signify a change in thought while keeping writing cohesive. So you're moving from one thing to another thing. One piece of evidence to another piece of evidence, claim to a claim, paragraph to a paragraph, whatever. One piece of commentary on one piece of evidence to another piece of commentary on the same piece of evidence. It doesn't matter, okay? Don't forget about those common transition words that we may often use as well. Therefore, because of this, for instance, and of course there's a whole helping more. I'm sure if you Googled them or typed transition words into AI, they could give you a lot more options than that. But keep in mind that they're your friend, okay? There's nothing wrong with them if they help to increase the transitional nature of ideas between different components of your argumentative essay, okay? Some things to do to verbalize those transitions. So these are some extra little juicy tidbits that you can be incorporating to make sure that you're transitioning appropriately. Repeat a key word or phrase, okay? So especially if maybe you're pulling out a quote or some sort of key idea in a piece of evidence, Go back and restate that word. Go back and restate that phrase. Draw our attention to it now, except now it's going to be used within the context of your commentary as opposed to just standing alone perhaps as a piece of evidence, okay? Use a pronoun to refer to a key word or phrase. Now, you got to be careful because there shouldn't be any lack of pronoun clarity. We should know what that pronoun is referring to. But assuming we do, that's a great way to be transitional because it shows us that your piece of evidence here and your commentary here are connected because you've got the pronoun in the commentary and I know that that pronoun links back to the evidence. Well, now we've got a transition, okay? So it helps to connect those things in a meaningful way, okay? And there are a couple more of those. You've got those traditional connecting words. So thus, however, moreover, for example, therefore, finally, in conclusion. There are a couple more in case you want a couple more examples. Don't forget parallel structure. Okay, and this, remember that this is a kind of sentence that maybe ends with a series of 3 prepositional phrases. Well, by ending a sentence with 3 prepositional phrases, that might be alluding to the fact that the next 3 sentences are each going to take one of those prepositional phrases as the subject of their sentence, or something like that. So that whole concept of parallel structure, writing things in a very similar way from one sentence to another sentence to another sentence and showing us that that structure is modeled in multiple different ways, okay? Create a sentence or paragraph that serves as a bridge from one part of an essay to another. Okay, this isn't, remember, 5-paragraph essay time, okay? You can do a 5-paragraph essay if you think that serves your rhetoric the best. But if I were teaching you the 5-paragraph essay, I might yell at you for having a paragraph that only acts as a bridge. But this is whatever's good for rhetoric. So if you feel like a paragraph or sentence bridge is going to make the best transition, then by all means, remember, rules are made to be broken. So you make that paragraph into a bridge if you think it's going to help and serve your rhetoric, okay? And then, of course, we come down to concluding our argument. Okay, so we've got our body taken care of and everything like that. We need to put things into perspective at the end. And as we know from previous conversations, this can get really tricky because you don't want to just repeat everything that you've said, but you also kind of need to repeat everything that you've said. So what does that leave us with? All right, well, let's talk about that conclusion paragraph. First off, an English teacher dies every time someone writes in conclusion in an in conclusion paragraph. Okay, don't do it. Please, 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 please. That's not the transition you're looking for whenever you're taking care of a conclusion paragraph. Okay, pick something else if you need some kind of introductory conclusion. All right. Remember that the most important function of a conclusion is to move the reader's attention from what your essay argued to so what, or why your argument matters, okay? So you spent the entire time telling us what you believe. Why should we care about what you believe, okay? So if mission has been accomplished, it would have probably been accomplished in your penultimate paragraph, and now we're all thinking to ourselves, yeah, this person's right. I agree with them. I agree with what they have to say. Okay, that's awesome, but you still got this conclusion paragraph. Okay, so what? Now that I agree with you, what am I supposed to do with this information? Why am I supposed to care about this information? Okay, how am I supposed to live myself differently or think differently or believe differently or feel differently? That's where your conclusion comes into play, okay? Remember that the introduction addressed why the reader should care about the subject. Bring the essay full circle by returning to that idea in the conclusion. So you should have alluded to that when we talked about introducing your argumentative essay. We mentioned the fact that, we should know why we should care. Now it's time to bring that full circle. Okay, hearken back to that. If you're going to repeat anything, and not in the exact words, of course, but if you're going to repeat anything, that's the thing that you're really going to want to repeat from back in that intro paragraph. Why we should care and what we should do with that information. This is also a great time for pathos, if you haven't already used it, because that pathos, is the final kick in the pants to make sure that we go ahead and believe what you have to say and do what you have to say and so on and so forth. That can, connect it to our real world lives in a way that feels very consequential. And as a result of that, we might be more motivated and find more ideas appealing that you've just presented to us, okay? Appeal to a value you share with your audience that bears on your subject. So when we say that, we're talking about those morals, the ethics, in short, the right and wrong that you and your audience both share. And as a consequence of both sharing that, both would agree on whatever your thesis is nonetheless. Okay. So go ahead and make sure that you're stimulating their emotions, stimulate their values. Find the common ground between you and your audience. Because if they see you in themselves and themselves in you, then they're going to say, well, we're the same person. I got to believe what that person's talking about. Okay. And again, this is your chance in the conclusion, just in case by that penultimate paragraph, they didn't agree with you. You're using pathos, you're using values, you're using common ground, and you're saying, we're the same person. You feel the same way I feel. You think the same way I think. We might as well just be on the same side. So that is my conversation with you guys on concluding your argumentative essays as well as making effective rhetorical choices in your argumentative essays. So as always, if you have any questions or concerns, please feel free to come to class with those the next time I see you. And I will see you shortly, guys.